Rodimus coming with another video review. And on today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the new Transformers Studio Series Leader Class Megatron, specifically as he appeared in Transformers Dark of the Moon. For the package, much like all of these new Studio Series figures, you do have that nice Transformers text along the side, Generation logo. As I mentioned, this is how he looked in Transformers Dark of the Moon. And then you have an open window that fully showcases the figure as well as all of his accessories. Then you come to the front, you got a really cool image of Megatron. You can see that he's number 34. You got a more up-close image of him right there. Opposite side here has a more pullback image which reveals his little buddy, Igor. Then when you come around to the back of the package, again, you know, big screen, inspired scale, detail, all that kind of stuff. And then you got images of him in his vehicle mode as well as his robot mode. You got Igor kind of hanging out there. And then his backdrop is of his Serengeti hideout. And it says, from his secluded African base, Megatron schemes with his Decepticon followers. And then you also do have a nice image of the other Leader Class figure in this wave, that being the Leader Class Jetfire. But for the packaging on this guy, that's about it. So without further ado, let's get him out here and see how cool he actually is. Alright guys, so here we... God damn you, Igor, stop trying to hog up the review. Alright guys, so here we have the new Leader Class Megatron open up out of his packaging and obviously in his vehicle mode. And starting off first, as always, we're going to take a quick look at the background. As you can see, it is his kind of dump. I mean, when you look around there, it's just a whole bunch of barrels. You got what look like robot parts there. He's got a big giant hammock for sunbathing, I guess. But overall, pretty nice. You do have the Transformers Dark of the Moon logo there on the base itself. This is a little bit bigger than the other ones, just for comparison. Here is the Bone Crushers. So you can see it's a little bit bigger, obviously, than what we got with smaller figures. Which that makes sense because, you know, he's a Leader Class figure. And realistically, in terms of calling him a Leader Class figure, it is mostly in reference, I feel, to just the size of him. He's not overly engineered. What's funny is, it's like, I feel like this, and here we're gonna do the comparison. I feel like the new Studio Series Optimus is a little bit more complex than this guy is. So it's definitely not a Leader Class in terms of engineering. But you can see size-wise, he's actually really fairly large. I mean, you can see that truck-wise, he kind of matches, and then you got the big whole back section here, which becomes basically the rest of his body. So, I mean, it is big. I think that's really very cool. Here's another Decepticon thing, though. But, I mean, you get it. He's good size. But for the most part, like, a lot of this size is just hollow. I mean, like this whole front section, oh, there's his gun. The whole front section here, this is all like a hollow piece. You come around to the bottom, you can see a lot of hollow to them. I mean, it's not bad, but it really isn't all that great. You do have weapon storage. You got these little tabs on the underside right here that this plugs into. It's precarious at best. I mean, you get it in there and it sits in there. I mean, there. It's weapon storage, so you can hide it. But looking at the rest of his accessories, the gun is really very nice. You got a very nice silver paint on there with just this dark gray plastic, but overall really nice detail on there. Really happy with how that turned out. He also does come with Igor. Now, the thing that's amazing about this, and it's very well articulated. Coming in to take a closer look at this ugly little dude. Now, people have said that this is like Longhaul's head, which it might be. It kind of looks like Longhaul's head. I mean, I don't know why he could... He turns into the Tasmanian devil when he just loses his head. When he's just his head, I guess. But he doesn't have any other real function other than hobbling around. But real nice detail throughout the entire thing. I mean, you can see some nice molded detail. You got the arms. One thing, it is very impressive how he's actually articulated. The arms here are on ball joints, just at the shoulder, so you can move that around. And then you got little hinges down here for the feet. The feet are connected, or the legs, I should say, are connected, so you move those forward and back, and they both move. But nice paint. You got some green on there. You got some red for the eyes. You got a really ugly looking face. So, sure, if you want to say that this is Longhaul's head, great. If not, whatever. But I think it's really awesome that they actually included this guy. That's really nice, and he just stands right out there. He also does come with his cloak. You can see it is a soft material. It's actually made out of cloth, which is cool. And then you have the fairly rubberized chains, I guess, although they don't really look like chains, they just look like wraps, but whatever. A lot of soft rubber on this guy. These bits here are soft rubber. These bits here are all soft rubber. Over time, I'm not too concerned about these. The paint job actually looks really nice on here too. You got a nice little fade going on there. This fade is a little bit lame, honestly. I mean, it should be a much more faded kind of thing, like right through here where it goes to the lighter tan color from the brown. But the concern about the rubber for me are these, because you do kind of have to stretch these. There's not much tension on there, at least here in vehicle mode. Robot mode, there gets to be a little bit more tension on it, and that does concern me over time. But I do wish there was some extra paint detail in there. I mean, you got some nice coloring on it. You got the black for the tires, some tannish color for the rims and everything. You got the brown. This looks really nice up here with these spiky dudes. But like back here, there's like a lot of drab paint. I mean, like you can see like there's some chains molded here. That would have been nice to have some paint on there. The rest of that fade would have been nice if you had it throughout the whole thing, or some rust on there. So I feel like it's just a little bit lackluster in terms of the coloring on the vehicle mode. Still cool looking. Don't get me wrong. Menacing. I remember when we first saw this show up on the set for the movie, a lot of people were like, is that Motormaster? Or is Optimus Prime sporting a new truck mode? Nobody really thought it was going to be Megatron at first. And partly because Michael Bay was a bit of a shyster and told us that Megatron was not going to be in the movie. That was kind of bullshit. He went on to say that Shockwave was going to be like the main villain. One thing that's really cool coming in here, you have a little hood ornament. You know, if it focuses, yeah, a little tiny hood ornament right there. That's cute. But yeah, so kind of threw people for a loop, thinking that Megatron wouldn't be in the movie. But here he is. One thing that I don't like is also these. These collapse in constantly. Just as part of the transformation, they don't really lock there. I mean, there's a bit of a locking thing there, but they just fall in too easily. He rolls. He stabs. It is what it is. I think it looks okay, but really not that great. Now, first transformation, what you need to do is unhook these chain dealies. Off of the side. You got little tiny hook sections right here that just lock on here. Again, I don't know if you're constantly playing with this, I don't know how well that's going to last over time. But nice detail and sculpt on these. They don't really, like I said, they don't really look like chains. They mostly just look like wires, but it is what it is. And then this whole section just flops off. I do like how that this is actually cloth, though. You can get this looking cool if you're patient with it. It definitely requires some patience to get everything, but usually for the vehicle mode here, and I'll show this off, I just take this and kind of fold this and put the hood section through that big giant hole section, and then I just kind of just take that and put it over like that, and I think that kind of looks okay, so throw that off to the side. Come around here to these side bits here, you're going to move these, and these little pieces here will detach. You can rotate those around, and then take these and extend them fully out if they aren't already. Like, I have a tendency to not push those all the way in, but just extend that in, and then lift this piece up just like so. Come up to this top section, go ahead and take this, fold that down. You come down to the bottom, you can tuck those in, and then come around to this top section or front section, and then just kind of pull everything together. Some of these actually hook in, so just kind of detach that down the center, splitting it all the way down just like that. You can take these, tuck those down, then come down here to these lower sections. You're going to take this, rotate this all the way around thusly, come around here. You can spin this right up here, just get that kind of around, and then this whole section here is going to fold down, and then you can bring that down just like that, kind of creating this leg. Take this, this is going to rotate around several different hinge points. And I always forget, but rotate that around. That brings that, that brings that. Then take this, rotate this, and then bring this up along the side, creating his leg. It sort of tabs into place like on the inside here. It's not really all that good, but you got a little post right in here that kind of locks everything in. It sits there. I mean, it's kind of held in there, so it's not too bad. Come to the other side. Again, can spin this piece around. You can bring this down, spin that around. This whole section here will rotate around. Keep that down like that. Bring that down, rotate that around, and then this, you accordion all this around towards the outside. Bring that down and in, and then this spins, tucks up underneath there, and then again lock that kind of in the side bit right along there, and basically there you have his legs done. Coming to the back here, now this can get a little bit tricky just because of clearance issues, but this piece you need to pull away. It loops over and tabs down, so you kind of have to push from the bottom to get that to loosen, and then come around here. All this just again kind of gets in the way, and then extend these bits out. These are going to become his arms, so just pull these out like that, and then this whole thing is going to hinge outward on both sides, just like so. Come to these side panels, and then you got some double hinges here. Just kind of lift and bring them around, so you basically cover up a portion of the wheels. Do that on this side as well. This outer section just hinges down just like that. These little bits right here, make sure again that they're extended out, and then you rotate these around and then push real tight to lock that in, and then you push the entire panel down. So again, on this side, we're going to rotate, and then that's already kind of collapsed, and then just push that all the way in just like that. You kind of play with his arms a little. Come down to this, you have his head on the inside here, pull this piece out. And this part I'm not a big fan of. I don't like the way that his chest kind of locks in. You have to lift this up, and you got a little tab right here that as you bring it up, then kind of slides down into his crotch piece right here. So you just push that down like that, lift up his head, kind of bring this down, and it basically just sits. It doesn't really lock in as far as I can really tell. Well, maybe it does, but it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't really look like it does much. It just kind of just looks like it sits right there. And then you just bring these up and just kind of position his head a little bit down. I mean, I don't see any points inside here that really lock everything. I could be wrong, but I don't really see much there. I'm trying to see. I mean, it looks like there's like little tabs along the side, but it doesn't do anything. So yeah, I guess it just kind of, you can just lift this over and just sit that there. But in playing with it, a lot of times you're going to detach down here. So not a big fan of that process, but getting that there. And then you come around here and see it, like everything kind of like, you kind of have to leave them hunched over as well. You got these little tabs, you just bring this up, that locks that in there. But yeah, he's constantly going to be hunched over, and I don't like what's happening here with the neck. Oh, there we go. That's kind of underneath there. So you kind of have to groove that all along there, but it just doesn't look all that great, honestly. Oh, I didn't rotate this around. And then there we go. Keep that around there. Kind of bend him at the knee, and then move this at the lower thing a little bit. So bend one there at the knee, and then bend one at the lower section. Kind of position him, kind of hunch him over. And then this is where you take this cape bit. You're going to wrap this over his head, down like that. Kind of just tuck that down. This whole section goes over his shoulders. And then this, again, this is a little bit tricky to kind of play with, but this wraps around. One side is longer than the other, so you do have to be careful with things. But in terms of dressing them, like I said, you got to make sure that I'm moving everything around. You have to make sure that you have the right length here, which can be problematic. So there's that, there's that, there's that. And see, and this is where like you have to kind of stretch this to get it to reach all the way over. And then literally you just kind of futz with this, kind of drape it, get it over his head some if you want to hide his face. It's a little bit easier to do when obviously the chains are not attached, but kind of pull things through. And again, futzing is a term that a lot of 6 scale people use. You definitely have to futz with this guy. So kind of that detached. So that kind of something similar like that. I'll play with it and try to make it look as best as possible. But when you're done, there you have Megatron in his robot mode. And this guy really does, in robot mode, look terrific. I'm fairly certain that you guys will be able to, with more time, be able to get the whole cape thing to look better, but on a tighter schedule, that's going to be about the best that I'm going to be able to do. Like I said, all you need to do is really kind of play with it a little bit, and you'll be able to get it looking pretty badass. Now, again, you can hold this gun in this hand. One thing that I don't really see a good way of holding his gun in this one. I'm trying to see if there's like some kind of pegging or anything. I don't necessarily see a easy way to get it on there, but I mean, for the most part, it's perfectly fine in here. You can kind of see that the hand here has this semicircle right there, which is what you use to kind of tab it in there. And I think it looks pretty good. I mean, you got the fingers coming up where like the trigger would be and everything. So it works over there. You come around the back. You can actually store it here on his back. You got a little nub right there that can plug in there. So you can take this, maybe put it over there. I don't remember what shoulder he had it over in the movie, but just tab that in. And you can have that kind of slung over his shoulder, which is pretty cool. You can also, in terms of moving all this stuff around, I mean, these little bits here are going to come out quite often. So just kind of try to minimize it as much as you can. He does have these little posts on here that you could take Igor, and you can put them on there, although it doesn't really work all that great because you got his cape right here. So you're going to like cover him up, I guess. So if you didn't have the cape on there, you could do something like that. And I just kind of like taking it and lowering it down into the various crevices to create that look for him, which does look really nice. The detail on him is really very well done. I'm going to take the whole cape section off for now, just because I want to try and show you some of his details, and it's a little bit easier to do it with this cape not on there. So I'm just gonna remove that. You can leave the whole chain thing on there. You don't necessarily have to have the cape section actually on him. He didn't wear it through the entire movie, so you don't necessarily have to leave that on there. But I'm gonna just try and get these bits. I mean, I almost feel like it's not positioned properly, but they're all on there. I mean, you can really get that how you want to, but the overall detail on it really is nice. You can see you get a little bit of that extra goldish brown color with his chest, his arms, his thighs. All those same colors are down here in his legs that we saw in vehicle mode. But like I said, you get a little bit more of it here in robot mode. The head here looks really good. One thing that I would say, though, is I do wish it was a little bit more battle damaged. Getting in as close as I can. That is an absolutely gorgeous head sculpt. You can see some nice red eyes, gold there for the teeth. But I feel like this should be a whole lot more expensive exposed and damaged looking. As it is, you got a little bit of red paint there, which kind of shows damage, but not a lot. I mean, I guess you could kind of say that you have a little bit of this molding on this side that you don't have on the opposite side, but I just feel like it should be a lot more busted up, but great paint nonetheless. You can see it's layered with obviously the brown section. You got some of this darker gray and then some silver on there, so it does look really nice. The rest of it looks good. You got some silver here on the shoulders. Like I said, you got that copperish rust color. I just feel like the tan color here is just very drab in this mode. It just, both modes, I really should say, it's just lacking. I just wish there was more dirt and grime to it. His hands look really nice. These are a softer rubber as well. A lot of soft rubber on here, as I was talking about. I don't necessarily feel like these are going to be damaged over time. This, like I said, possibly just because there's a little bit of tension on it, but I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case with these guys. But you can see a nice coloration with that there. In general, I mean, he does look good. The whole complaint that I had about his vehicle mode, him being hollow, really does compress, and I don't know how else they could have done it to get his robot mode to work. So I understand why he has that hollow nature. I mean, it completely makes sense. I just wish that it really wasn't all that bad. Now, for some size comparisons, he is a leader class figure, and the interesting thing is he's fairly similar in terms of the size to the previous Revenge of the Fallen Megatron. I mean, height-wise, they're not too terribly bad, I mean, when you look at them, but I don't know necessarily why he would have gotten bigger. He seemed like he was roughly the same size in the movie. Maybe it's just because he was a bigger vehicle. I don't know, but the size isn't bad. What I think works really good, and I'm going to leave both of these guys out here. I'm going to bring in Optimus Prime, and this, I think, was a really good size. This, I think, looks a little bit better. I honestly think just because Megatron seemed like he was a lot bigger than Optimus in a lot of scenes with the movie, this might be a little bit better for people's taste. But in my mind, I think that this is a good scale. I like seeing this. It's not to say that it's completely accurate, but you know, I'm not gonna freak out about it. I think it's pretty solid. I am certainly curious to see if they'll ever do a Last Night version or maybe even a Galvatron version to see where the size would go for that. First articulation, the head here is on a ball joint. You can get a real high upward motion with it, and then he looks left and right, but the way that the whole neck section is here, I would be careful because you could probably dislodge everything. The shoulders here, you got a nice swivel, but that's all it is. It's just a swivel. You do have a bit of a butterfly joint kind of as part of the transformation, and then you have a hinge. What's interesting though is it's almost like there's a locking ratchet right there, and then just regular kind of hinge going outward, so I don't get that. He rotates at exactly the elbow, and then you have two joints at the elbow. You have this larger rotation joint, and then you have another one, so you can get a really good curl with that. The wrists are a little bit interesting. In terms of this hand, these two are separate, so you can articulate the hands or fingers a little bit differently. Don't really know what that's all about. But then when you look at his other hand, they're all connected. It does still have a hinge forward and back, but all the fingers are connected. So I don't know why they decided to make the fingers detach on this one and not that one. That's kind of weird. Nothing at the waist. The hips here are a little bit weird. You can see you can go forward and back, but they are a little bit loose, and he has a tendency to want to hunch forward sometimes, and you can't really push back too far because you can see this whole section here lines up just about perfectly with the back piece. So, I mean, you can force it, but you're really then just basically kind of warping this stuff. So his legs are kind of stuck like that, and that's why you really need to use these bends at his knee. You do have a rotation at the knee. Does it? Oh, and it does go in and out, but again, because of this right here, you can't really bend it out too much. So you're kind of... It's very minimalistic, but like I said, you do have a rotation here. You do have a ratchet joint at that knee, and then right below here, you have another knee joint. So, like I said, you kind of have to use all that to get them to stand straight, because these hips have a tendency to want to make them hunch forward. So you can get them standing perfectly fine. It's just weird how they do it. And then I guess you could kind of say that you got that as foot articulation, but it really doesn't do anything. I mean, it doesn't help stabilize them, but he does stand perfectly fine. It's just, if you're going to have a spread look, you just want to kind of tilt those a little bit just to kind of make it look a little bit more natural, as opposed to keeping it like that. So it looks pretty good. I'm happy. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is my favorite look for Megatron. He looks very rundown, very defeated, and I don't know if I like... I mean, I didn't like that aspect from the movie. I didn't like seeing him just completely broken as a character. It just seemed strange and not seem like something that Megatron would really be like. I didn't particularly like that, but the toy here actually comes across really nicely, and it's a solid figure that may, dare I say, replace this guy in my movie Megatron display. Now, to transform him back, come around here. You want to detach his little chain dealie, so just pull that away, just like that. And then obviously we're going to set that away and we'll put that on later on. Come down here to the back section. You can detach this, straighten out these arms. And then what you want to do is pull this piece away, rotate that around like so. And then you can hinge this piece back and all the way up. Do that on this side as well. So pull this. Oh, well, that whole thing apparently will come off. Don't do that. Pull that, rotate that around. Keep that kind of up there. And then hinge this piece up in just like that. Come to this chest section. If it didn't already detach, go ahead and just pull it away. Pull this up and then pull the head back a little bit from that little groove section. Apparently it does like tab in right there. So just pull that away and then hinge that down. You can take the head and you can tuck that up in under. Now pull this whole thing all the way down, and then you can push the head down and under like so. Come down to these legs, straighten them out as best as you can. You kind of want to keep them completely straight. So if you bent it at like one point at the knee here and then one point down here, just go one point back and you can get things lined up. Come down here to the legs, get these arms kind of out of the way. Open this piece up, pull that away from the body, just like so. And then you can take this entire section, rotate that around. That will lock in there. We'll play with that here in a bit. Don't have to do too much with it right now. Rotate at the lower section, not anywhere else. Rotate it right there, and then you can take this and then fold that, and then this will come around and line up along the side there. Come back around here, rotate this around, and then that will spin around just like that. And then take this section, fold that down, rotate that just like that. Let's do that on the other side as well. So again, you're going to extend all of this out to separate this, pull all this out. You can then rotate the lower portion of the leg around, take this, fold this, and then this will come up, and then this whole section kind of goes behind his knee. You have enough space there if you get those knee joints kind of clicked into the right spot. Now this part can be a little bit tricky. So again, we're going to rotate this all the way out, spin that around, rotate this all the way around. The reason why it's fairly tricky is mostly because it's very long and difficult to kind of keep everything lined up. So lift these pieces are going to want to fall in constantly. So just kind of squeeze this together and try your best to hold that in place like that. Come around here to the underside. You can fold out these tires. And you can see you got some little points right along here. See, it's already coming undone. You got locking points. Like I said, some of these are little hook type ones. So try and line those up to kind of hold everything together. It's tricky, mostly because, like I said, he's long and floppy. So in playing with all of this, it can get a little frustrating. Because of that. So you got a little hook one down here. Let's hook the front section. See if that makes things a little bit easier. Hooks that there. And then you have another hook one kind of underneath here. You can just squeeze it together. And then everything else kind of squeezes in. Like, see, these are going to flop down. And you're going to have to wedge your finger in there to pull them back up. Just a little bit loose on that end, and it's a little bit problematic. So squeeze all of that, and why are you not? There we go. Kind of just line all that up as best you can. You got a couple other tabbing points here. We'll worry about that later, but right now everything kind of feels like it's locked in as best as you're going to get it for right now. But basically, that's the gist of this whole front section. Come up to these arm sections. Now, these can also get a little bit tricky to do because they don't really kind of easily flow into a position. They kind of just get wedged and forced into a position. So get this out of the way. This section right here, you want to hinge this around. And as you do it, kind of rotate the shoulder around. Keep this towards the outside. And then this collapses down. You have to keep this a little bit out of the way. Bring the hand and the arm all the way inside here. And then you basically at the elbow have to bend it and cram it in here. So you're kind of taking the whole elbow section, bending that down, and it's, like I said, a little bit tricky to do, especially with this piece right here in the way, his chest piece. So you kind of like accordion that down, and you have to make sure that that gets all the way down. Otherwise, the arm won't be fully compressed. So it's not fun to do that part right there. That's for sure. So do that, kind of bring that around there. All right, so let's see if I can get this. You accordion that down. You bring these two together. That's going to clip together like that. And then these, make sure that the elbows stay straight. And then again, you just kind of wedge these down there. And you'll, I mean, like that right there, I could totally feel it getting into place. And there's that one. Okay, good. And then you bend these wrists kind of up along the body like that. Bring this around, push this all the way down, locking that position. This, then keep these kind of out to the side. These come down, and then you have a little tab on this side. If you have everything collapsed properly, this little slot on the inside here will come across and line up. It's, again, tricky to see, even trickier to do. So let's see if I got that there. Kind of hinge that down and kind of put that there. Yeah, see, it's kind of, like I said, hard to see. Make sure that that gets in there, though. And I think, nope, that whole thing's just going to pop off. So let's try it on this side. So again, bring this around. It's definitely a fiddly kind of mess, but that, there we go. And then there's another tab. You can kind of see it right here, this little slot piece, that this is going to lock into. So if everything lines up proper, you should be able to get it to securely tab into place. And I'm not thinking I did, no. But that is how everything kind of locks in here and stays where it's supposed to. So I think I got it right there. So you can see it definitely, like I said, is a fiddly transformation. There we go. And then these little pieces here kind of sort of look like they fit in some groove slots along there. It doesn't matter. It's not going to make any difference whatsoever. Try to keep these wheels out. They'll collapse. These pieces up here have little locks. Right here has a little lock. Here kind of fits in. And then lock that down. And then there basically you have his vehicle mode, but to complete the look, you have to put this on here. So like I said, I like taking this and actually folding this over like that, and then just kind of putting it over this, kind of draping it over there, and then this, you kind of line up these bits and make sure that you get the right sections in place. Yeah, see how this is not long enough, so have to reverse it. You gotta futz with it. There we go. All right, and then kind of just can pull this through and kind of make this look good as you do it, but keep these popped out. When you're all done with it, there you have them back in his vehicle mode. All in all, though, it's a good figure. The transformation is not very good. I'm not a huge fan of it. There's a lot of hollow aspects to it, which makes sense. You have to have that in order to get everything incorporated in it. I don't mind that so much, but it does have a very thin feel. Obviously, going into his robot mode is much easier because everything just kind of explodes out and then you're able to reform it. But getting everything lined up and tabbed in properly to come back to this mode is a pain in the butt. It really isn't that enjoyable of a transformation going back into this mode. I'm still actually fairly impressed, though, how they were able to get everything included in this. It definitely has impressive engineering, but it does feel overall fairly simple and just not very fluid in this transformation. Vehicle mode wise, looks pretty good. It really does look the part. I do wish there were better paint details, but in general, it's decent. Robot mode, though, is absolutely gorgeous. That head sculpt looks amazing. The only thing that I would really add to it would be some more battle damage and maybe a little bit stronger hip sections. But overall, a decent release. I do think that there are other Studio Series figures that did a better job of obviously incorporating robot mode, vehicle mode, and then the engineering. So I do like them and I do recommend them. But just know that there are some nagging aspects to the figure. But all that being said, if this version of Megatron is a figure that you'd like to add to your collection, he is hitting various retail locations right now. So if you're looking for him, good luck and happy hunting. Or as always, you can check out places such as Big Bad Toy Store. For that, I'll put a link down in the video description where you'll go to BBTS and you can check out availability on this guy, as well as the rest of the wide range of Transformer figures. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. Remember, if you like this video, I would really appreciate your support, guys, simply by hitting that little thumbs up button. That one small gesture really does go a long way towards helping me out, and I would really appreciate it. Also, I want to send a huge thank you if you made it all the way to the end of this review. Another way that you can really help support my channel is making sure that you watch a video all the way through. And if you did that, thank you. And a huge shout out to all of my patrons, who now more than ever help to make reviews like this possible. And finally, remember, the real trouble with the world is that too many people grow up. Thank you for watching and taking the time to be a kid. You're